Working with a microcontroller always involves two parts. You'll need to write a computer program, and then you'll need to connect external devices to the microcontroller. After all, if we only wrote the program, it would just be a computer program, not a microcontroller. If we just had external hardware, it would just be a circuit, not a microcontroller. It's that interface between software and hardware that makes it a microcontroller program. So over here you can see this is about the simplest microcontroller program for the Arduino that we can have. This first block of code is called setup. And the thing to know about setup is that it's only going to be executed once, and that's going to be right when the program starts. In this case, you can see that what we're doing is we're causing pin 13 to be defined to be an output. And so in this case, pin 13 is going to be connected to an LED. Obviously, then it needs to be an output from the microcontroller. Once setup has been completed, then we go into the block of code that's called loop. And loop is going to execute over and over and over again, just as the name suggests. You can see what we're going to do here is we're going to write a high, typically 5 volts, to pin 13. Then we're going to delay 1,000, and the units here are milliseconds. So we're going to delay 1,000 milliseconds, which is 1 second. After 1 second passes, we're going to write a low, or 0 volts, out to pin 13. We're going to wait another 1,000 milliseconds, or 1 second, and then we're going to loop back up again and write a high. So what happens is, write a high, wait a second, write a low, wait a second, write a high, wait a second, write a low, wait a second, and so forth. So what we're going to see is that pin 13 is going to be going high for a second, then low for a second, then high for a second, then low for a second. Now once we've written this piece of code, what we need to do is two things. We need to first of all verify the code. I'm going to click this check mark here to verify the code. What's actually happening here, it's called verify, but it's also compiling the code. It's converting it into a version, into a type of file that can be downloaded into the microcontroller. Once you're done with compiling or verifying the code, then you upload. So I'm going to click on the arrow here, and that arrow is going to cause the code to be transmitted to the board, and it will then immediately begin executing. Now, when you click on upload, you should see the transmit and receive lights flashing on your microcontroller. But especially the very first time that you do this, it might not work properly. In fact, you could get an error message here on the computer. If that happens, the place where you want to look here is under port. Now you'll see that I'm on COM4. I don't know what your COM number is going to be, but it probably won't be COM1. So if you're having trouble, the very first thing to try is to switch to a different COM port. Once you've switched to a different COM port, try to upload the code again. If it still doesn't work, then see if you can get some help from a professor or the teaching assistant. But this is probably going to be easily 95% of the time, that'll be what the error is. So once you've written your first program, Flash 1, you should make the appropriate connections on your Arduino board. You can see the red wire here is connecting pin 13 to the positive terminal of the LED. The negative terminal of the LED is connected through a resistor, 330 ohm resistor, down to the ground of the breadboard. And then the ground of the breadboard is connected to the ground of the Arduino board using the white wire. The colors are not essential, of course, but I just thought that they were helpful to show some color coding. You'll want to make sure that you plug the USB port in to your computer. There'll be some initial flashing that indicates that the connections are being established. And if the connections are not being established, then you can change the port, the COM port that you're connecting to. Once you've done that, and once you've verified your code, now it's time to upload your code to the board. So I'm going to click on Upload. You should see some activity as the board is receiving the code. And then once the code has been correctly received, then the LED will begin to flash once per second.